With the recent release of the Super Mario Galaxy movie, I thought now would be a great time to talk about Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I figured since I made a review about the first movie, I had some kind of obligation to make one for the sequel as well. I actually saw the movie a few days after it first came out, and I'm only making the review now because my family went on winter vacation after the fact, and when I got back, I was busy playing Metroid Prime 4, and then I got busy playing Persona 3 Reload, and I'm only saying all this to stall for time so I don't have to review the movie. Let's just go ahead and get into it. I also want to make it known that this video will feature heavy spoilers for the 5-month-old movie. So now you know. So the plot of the movie is pretty much how it sounds in the trailers. Abby discovers the other toy animatronics because of the communicator she found at the first pizzeria, and after a lot of stuff, the animatronics slowly become evil and eventually escape the restaurant and wreak havoc across the town. Now, the story isn't anything too special. In fact, some parts of it heavily resemble the plot of the first movie. They have the whole scene where a group of randos enter the pizzeria and get killed, like in the first movie, and they also have the overly evil character that is so obviously gonna get killed, like in the first movie. Now, one of the main selling points that you've probably heard about this movie is that it's scarier and more violent than the first movie, and I gotta say, I don't really see either all that much. Pretty on par with Five Nights at Freddy's 1 in terms of the horror level, and while some of the death scenes are a little more creative, they didn't really feel all that more intense than the first movies. There's also a ridiculous amount of fan service in this movie too. They obviously played It's Been So Long by the Living Tombstone during the end credits, but it goes so much farther than that. There's a Five Nights at Candy's cameo not even a minute into the movie. There's a group of horror content creators that have Scooper in their name. There's that one plushie playing the horror sound, which you've probably already seen. What you may not have seen, though, is a blink and you'll miss it Shadow Bonnie cameo during the final act. He literally just flashes on screen for less than a second. There's no reason for him to be there, and he's not even brought up later on in the movie. Okay. By far, though, the most out-of-nowhere feeling bit of fan service they included was Circus Baby showing up in a Vanessa flashback. Like, why was she there? With that being said, though, there are a few things this movie does that I actually do think are pretty cool. I mentioned earlier that Vanessa has a flashback to her life with William, and it actually made me care for her way more than I did in the first movie. I also like how they managed to get Michael into the FNAF 2 office. It fits well into the story, and even though it doesn't last for too long, it still feels like a pretty faithful adaptation of FNAF 2's gameplay, and it was pretty cool to see. There's also the post-credit scene, which is obviously meant to set up the third movie, but hey, it was a pretty cool post-credit scene. The Mangle attacking Vanessa's car was pretty cool. Speaking of the Mangle, the animatronics look incredibly good and accurate, just like the first movie. The toy animatronics look fine, but I think the withered animatronics are especially great and look amazing. If only they were in the movie for more than 10 minutes. But if I had to point out one specific thing about this movie that I actively dislike, it's how they handled the puppet. To start off, they drastically changed Charlotte's backstory. In the game, Charlotte was lured out of the pizzeria by William and killed in the alleyway. Then the puppet follows her out there because of the specific programming to protect her. It malfunctions from the rain and ends up collapsing onto Charlotte's body. In the movie, though, Charlotte sees William lure another kid into the back of the pizzeria to kill them. Then Charlotte talks to like 5 other adults to warn them, and then none of them believe her, so she goes into the back on her own to save the kid. She then finds the kid and tries to escape with them, and William chases her down the hallway very slowly as she tries to drag the kid back to the restaurant. Then she gets back to the restaurant and successfully escapes William, except she was actually stabbed in the back 5 times and she fell into the puppet's arms when she died. Oh no! Wait, how did she get away from William when he stabbed her? Wouldn't being stabbed once mean that William caught up to her and then could have just stopped her from escaping? Did he just like stab her in the back, let her keep going, and then just stab her again or something? Oh, hey, look, it's the intro song. Ba 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 ba. Now, the backstory itself isn't my issue here, but it's how it ties into the puppet's character that really brings it down for me. So you know how I mentioned Charlotte asking a bunch of adults for help and getting ignored by them? Well, this results in the puppet's goal as an evil animatronic to be that she wants to kill all adults. What? She then manipulates the rest of the toy animatronics to kill a bunch of adults. I have no idea if they're the same parents that ignore Charlotte or just some random ones that Charlotte decided should die, but it doesn't really matter anyway since this is still such a dumb premise. I could excuse the first movie's animatronics for being childish, and I would also excuse it for the toy animatronics in this one too. And I'm not an expert on the puppet as a character, but this just feels way too childish for a character like her. From what I know about the puppet, she feels like a much more sophisticated animatronic than the rest of them, being the one to help protect the souls of the kids that William killed, and also being the only animatronic to recognize William in Ultimate Custom Night. I would have preferred if she acted more like the Golden Freddy kid in the first movie, just being a mysterious and more mature force to go against. This kind of feels like if a child had to write a horror villain. Also, the way these adults reject Charlotte is just done so cartoonishly that it's kind of ridiculous. You mean to tell me that not one of these grown-ass adults decided to hear out a clearly distressed child and they just ignored her when she mentioned a potential kidnapping? Really? Is there anything else I forgot to mention about this character? Oh yeah. They gave the puppet the ability to possess humans and give them creepy noodle limbs. It's not Charlotte's soul possessing them, mind you. The puppet animatronic itself can somehow inhabit the bodies of real people and manipulate them. So not only is this kind of ridiculous, but it's also pretty pointless. Like, why couldn't the puppet just move on its own and use its own noodle limbs to be creepy? Maybe it's some metaphor for the puppet itself being stuck on strings or something. Or maybe it was just done so that the movie could end on a very sudden and kind of abrupt cliffhanger where the puppet possesses Vanessa. I don't know. I think that's all I have to say about this movie. This one has quite a few more issues than the first movie, but for me personally, this is kind of just the first movie again. I don't know if I'd call it the worst video game movie of 2025, but I still wouldn't call it a very good movie, despite the fact that I think the first one is actually pretty good. I'll obviously be watching the third movie, not just because I'll have to make another review for it, but also I'm curious to see how the movie franchise progresses. If it has a group of random people getting killed by animatronics and a very unlikable character that's also gonna get killed off by an animatronic, then I'll have a bingo. I'm giving this movie 3 out of 5 nights. If you're curious, you can go ahead and watch the movie, but I wouldn't put too much faith in it to surpass or even live up to the first film, if I'm being brutally honest. Also, since I mentioned it in the intro, I will be making a review of the Mario Galaxy movie that I'll hopefully get out by the end of the month, so keep an eye out for that. Anyways, that's all I gotta say. Goodbye.